Yo, we step up in the scene, check your engine is clean. DPF guys got your ride smoking green. No block, no drag, just pure machine. Come show us your truck, we'll make it pristine. We just wanna know, can your diesel uphold? Bring something dirty, we'll turn it to gold. It's like this, we clean up your flow. Now your engine is gliding. It's time to hit the road.
Okay, hello. It is Sunday, February 23rd. This is episode 57 of the DPF Guys live Q&A. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to DPF Guys Sunday Q&A. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss any updates. If you're watching elsewhere, head over to youtube.com/DPF Guys to join the live session. So who am I? I'm James from DPF Guys, your go-to expert for diesel after-treatment services. Whether you own your own truck, manage a fleet, run a repair shop or a dealership, we have the knowledge to keep your trucks running clean and compliant. We handle everything with the diesel engine, from light-duty trucks and RVs to heavy equipment like tractors and wood chippers. If it has a DPF, we've got you covered. For more info, call or text 404-999-1361. Call or text 404-999-1361. An AI operator named Lynn Diesel is standing by. Got any questions while you watch this? Drop them in the comments wherever you might be, and I'll be answering them live during the session after I get through the 10 questions that came in over the last 7 days. Just to be sure, you remember to always check with your mechanic for specific issues, and any pricing discussed here is just for reference, so be sure to contact us directly to get pricing specific to you, your truck, and your problem. All right. So what are we going to cover today? What are the key questions? 1, how can I tell if my DPF needs a cleaning or replacement? We'll talk about common signs like warning lights, frequent regens, loss of power, and whether it's time for a professional cleaning or even maybe a replacement. What are the most common causes for SCR failures is number 2, and how can you prevent them? Learn about DEF quality issues, clogged SCR catalysts, failed sensors, and how to keep your SCR system running smoothly for as long as possible. Number 3, how do cold weather and moisture impact my diesel exhaust system? We'll discuss how cold weather can affect your DPF, your SCR, your DEF, and the whole system altogether, and how you can prepare for winter and avoid trouble. Now, we're kind of at the tail end of winter here, but this question came in during the cold days, so I get it. Number 4, why is my truck losing power after regen, and what should I check? Find out what might cause power loss after a regen and how to troubleshoot issues with the DPF, exhaust leaks, or possibly turbo issues. Number 5, how often should I be checking and replacing my NOx sensors? Learn when to check and replace your NOx sensors and why it's important to maintain them to avoid DEF and SCR system issues. Onward to number 6, can running a truck on low DEF levels cause damage to the SCR system? I'll clarify whether low DEF can damage your SCR, and it really can't, and how to monitor the DEF levels to avoid issues like limp mode and starting problems. Number 7, what are the dangers of running a truck with deleted emission systems? Now, this is kind of a hot topic here. I know there's some pretty strong opinions about deletes and not deleting and whether you should delete or shouldn't. So find the risks of deleting your emission systems, including engine strain, turbo failure, and of course, the always present legal issues and increased maintenance costs. Believe it or not, a deleted truck can actually cost more to maintain than a non-deleted truck, and I know that sounds amazing. Excuse me. Number 8, how do exhaust leaks affect performance of my emission system, and how do I find them? Learn how even small exhaust leaks can disrupt your regen cycle, reduce performance, and how to find those leaks in your system. Number 9, almost to the end, what's the difference between a passive and an active regeneration? We'll break down how passive and active regen work and why both are essential for maintaining your DPF. And last but far from least, why do I keep seeing low NOx efficiency codes despite having a clean DPF and DOC and hopefully SCR? We'll explore common causes like faulty sensors, DEF system problems, and EGR issues, which can trigger these codes. All right, are we ready to rock and roll? Let's go on to question number 1. How can I tell if my truck's DPF needs a cleaning or replacement? Knowing when to clean or replace your DPF, which is your diesel particulate filter. It's basically the vacuum cleaner bag that catches all of that soot before it gets out in the atmosphere, and we all have to breathe it. Um, it's knowing that is important for your truck to run well, and here's how to tell. Um, Check the engine for DPF warning lights, pretty obvious, and the specific codes. If the check engine light or DPF warning light turns on, it could mean your DPF is full of soot and can't clean itself. It might just need a cleaning. But if the light stays on, there could be a bigger problem. Uh, Possibly you also might notice frequent or failed regens. If your truck is doing regen cycles too often, or the regen doesn't finish successfully, it could be because the DPF is too much soot or ash, which simply happens after a extended period of time. 250,000, 400,000 miles, maybe 5,000, 5,500 hours, or some combination thereof. If the regen keeps failing, it might need to be replaced or cleaned. A clogged DPF can stop air from going into the engine, making your truck feel weak or slow. If your truck is hard to start or lacks power after regen, the DPF could be clogged and probably needs cleaning. If it's too clogged, you may need a new one, actually. Well, I disagree with that, because no matter how clogged your DPF is, as long as somebody hasn't tried to clean it previously with some sort of chemicals that might have cooked and settled inside, basically became cement inside the DPF, or if somebody hasn't tried to clean it with a power washer, um, we really never see a DPF that's too dirty to clean. And then what about ash versus soot? So the soot is the black soot that you see is just unburned hydrocarbon, unburned diesel fuel. But the ash that remains after regen, that stays in the filter. The very definition of ash is something that cannot be burned any further. Just like ash in the bottom of your Weber grill or ash in the bottom of your fireplace, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try to burn that, the ash will stay. And so in your DPF, over time, ash builds up and can block the DPF. Happens a lot. This is a problem I see very often in Vovos and Macs. If you have a Volvo or Mac, you can go a long time from between DPF cleanings. 700,000 miles is definitely not heard of, 800, 900,000 miles. But that DPF will be filled up right to the top with ash. It is nothing more that you can do. The Volvo and Mac do regen really well, but there comes a point where you simply, ash can't be burned and it needs to be cleaned out. What else could it be? Cracked or broken DPF, melted DPF. A cracked DPF lets soot escape into the SCR system, which can cause problems. So one thing you can always do is check your stack or your tailpipe for black soot. If you find any black soot on the tailpipe or the stack, it just means the DPF is cracked and needs to be replaced. It also means that if the DPF is cracked, it's bypassing soot into the SCR, which can cause SCR or NOx conversion codes. So if you see soot in your tailpipe, and you're having SCR codes or NOx conversion codes, don't replace any sensors, don't replace your SCR. That simply means you've got a cracked DPF, and you need to replace the DPF and get the SCR cleaned, and then dig into the root cause of what cracked the DPF. It's if you have a cracked DPF, you likely have injector issues or potentially valve adjustment issues where you're generating low compression, getting incomplete combustion. That fuel makes its way down to the DPF and will do what's called a thermal shock and will crack the DPF. And then that cracked DPF is now letting the soot through and it's causing a ruckus further down line. What is kind of the rule of thumb for DPF cleaning? You should clean your DPF every 200 to 250,000 miles, or after about 4,000 to 5,000 engine hours if you have something that's stationary or doesn't go very far. And this helps from getting too clogged. Now, if you're not sure about any of this and you're listening to this going, man, I might be interested to learn more about this. Do I have a problem that DPF guys can and should solve? We will help you. Just give us a call or a text at 404-999-1361. Call or text anytime, day or night, 404-999-1361. If you catch us after hours, you will have the pleasure to meet Lynn Diesel, our friendly AI receptionist who can actually answer some questions about what we do, where to find us, how much things cost, and even answer some questions about codes. Um, but it will talking to Lynn will get us all the information we need to help you out. All right, what's number two? What are the most common causes of SCR failure and how can I prevent them? The SCR, or the selective catalytic reduction system, helps reduce harmful NOx emissions by using DEF, which is the diesel exhaust fluid. And several things can cause SCR failures, but regular maintenance can prevent costly problems. And so here's what you should know. Number one, DEF quality issues. Poor quality DEF can clog the injector and damage the SCR catalyst, which reduces its effectiveness. Also, even if you use the best possible DEF, it has a limited lifespan of about 2 years under ideal conditions. If it is something that is out in the sun or getting hot, that DEF will definitely see what I did there, last less than a year. So if you're going to buy bulk DEF, make sure that you are able to use it, to turn it over more than once a year, like once every 6 months. If you're not turning your DEF over every 6 months, you probably want to buy it by the jug. And because if your DEF spoils, you're going to have it's not going to work very well, and you will get SCR codes. To know if your DEF is good, you want to have two things. One of them is a DEF refractometer, and we do sell these for about 25 bucks. No batteries required. It'll sit in your glove box for a million years, and if you need to use it, you can use it. And the other thing, I don't have an example with me. It's around here somewhere, but I just don't have it with me, is a contamination strip. You really should have both. And especially if you got bulk DEF, you want to test that periodically to make sure it's still good. Um, you could have a clogged or damaged SCR catalyst, the actual SCR canister. And if your DPF is cracked, what will happen is the soot will enter the SCR and clog the catalyst. Um, and so the idea is to make sure you don't have a cracked DPF. If you're having SCR issues and you have soot on your tailpipe, the issue isn't your SCR. Well, it is, but it's not being caused by the SCR. It's being caused by a cracked DPF that allowed soot into the SCR, which is what's called poisoning the SCR. And so you definitely would need to fix that by cleaning the SCR and then fix the initial root cause of the SCR issue, which is a cracked DPF, and then look further upstream into the engine as to what caused the DPF to crack. And it's usually failing injectors or low compression due to the needing a valve adjustment. Another thing that can cause these codes is failed NOx sensors. The NOx sensors monitor NOx levels in the exhaust and regulate the DEF injection. If they fail, the DEF might be injected incorrectly, which could cause too much or too little DEF to be used. Regularly check your NOx sensors and replace any that aren't working properly. Now, you can't see the sensing side of the NOx sensor from outside. I'm not saying you need to like unscrew the NOx sensor and physically inspect it, but just pay attention that if you have if you're getting NOx codes and you do not see soot in the tailpipe, you probably have a NOx sensor issue. What we like to do when we come to diagnosing NOx sensors is we will allow you to come to our shop. And for the more popular trucks, we have NOx sensors in stock. We will install a new one, a good working one. And if that fixes the problem, then you simply pay us for the sensor. If it doesn't fix the problem, we put it back on the shelf as one of our test units, and we continue to diagnose. And it could be wiring, it could be anything like that. You could have bad fuel or fuel system issues. Bad fuel or faulty injectors. That's one thing that I've really talked about, because faulty injectors can cause incomplete combustion. The increasing soot can clog the DPF, or if you have unburned fuel hitting that DPF, it can cause thermal shock and crack it, and at which point the soot will pass down the line into the SCR and will spoil the SCR. So always use high quality fuel, keep your injectors in good condition, and check fuel pressure regularly. Make sure that your fuel is being delivered properly. You don't have a fuel filter that's in the way. Another thing that can cause it is underheating or especially overheating the SCR system. Underheating will cause the SCR to not work efficiently. Overheating can actually damage it. If you ever see the temperature of your SCR hit 1200 degrees Fahrenheit or greater, that will quickly damage the SCR and cause it to fail. And then the only option you have is to replace it. EGR issues. If your EGR is not doing what it should be doing, a malfunctioning EGR valve can cause too much soot, which can clog your DPF or even crack your DPF if you have to regenerate it a lot. Um, Also, if the EGR cooler is not doing what it should do, the amount of NOx coming off the engine won't be, because there's two things that reduce NOx. The first phase, the first step, the first line of defense against NOx is the EGR cooler. And then the second line of defense is the SCR, the selective catalytic reducer. So the EGR cooler will reduce NOx a bit, and then the SCR reduces NOx the rest of the way. So if your EGR cooler is not functioning properly and is not reducing NOx at all, it might overwhelm the SCR, causing causing the SCR or the sensors to communicate back to the ECM, and the ECM to overdose the DEF to compensate for what's not happening up in the EGR cooler. So anyway, if you have any issues with your SCR, call or text us 404-999-1361. Do it now. Lynn Diesel is standing by to talk to you, and I will definitely get back to you during business hours so we can talk in more detail. Call or text us anytime, day or night, 404-999-1361. All right, number 3. What do we have here? Oh, this is a good one. How can cold weather impact my diesel exhaust system, and how can I prepare for it? Cold weather, like we've had recently, and especially what you can experience up in my hometown of Wisconsin, my home state of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, etc. Um, that can cause problems with the truck's emission system, especially the DPF, your DEF, and your SCR. So low temperature just makes the system work harder, and it's harder for them to work properly. So keep in mind that DEF freezes and at 12 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 11 centigrade or Celsius, and that can block the system and trigger DEF quality or SCR efficiency codes. So make sure your DEF heaters are working. So the truck is designed, and the engineers understand that DEF will freeze at below freezing temperatures. But they build heaters into the tank, on the lines, on the DEF dozer. But if those heaters aren't working right, you're going to have DEF lines that are frozen. You can't deliver the DEF, and you will get SCR codes. The longer or failed regens due to low exhaust temps. So if you can't get your exhaust temp up, you're not going to be able to complete a regen. Crystallization of DEF in the system, moisture in the air or high humidity can cause DEF to crystallize, blocking parts of the system and reducing SCR efficiency. Crystallized DEF can be a little messy, but usually it doesn't plug anything up because it will just dissolve when it's hit by water in the regular DEF. But still, check the DEF lines, make sure you don't have any leaks. You can have a clogged or frozen EGR cooler. Cold weather can cause well, of course, it shouldn't be frozen because there's coolant in there, but you want to make sure that if you have an EGR cooler that freezes, be careful because it can crack the coolant inside of it and cause a leak. What else? It can also increase regeneration cycles to low fuel efficiency. Cold weather can lower fuel efficiency, leading to more soot because the fuel is not burning properly, and that will lead to more soot buildup and more frequent regens. So keep your fuel full, and just make sure that you get, the truck gets warm and everything gets flowing on that. You could simply have low engine temperatures impacting the efficiency of your system. So cold engine temperatures can prevent the DPF from getting hot enough to effectively regenerate, either passively or actively. So make sure your thermostat's working properly, and check your fan clutch to make sure the fan is cycling on and off. So cold weather can really affect your truck's emission system. Regular maintenance, just like for everything, high quality DEF and good driving habits will help prevent issues. Keep your truck in good condition, and you'll avoid cold weather problems. Now, if you do have a problem, please text or call us anytime, 404 999 1361. 404 999 1361. We are here to help. All right. Let's see if we got any questions that came in. Not quite yet. All right, number 4. Number 4, why is my truck losing power after regeneration, and what should I check? So, if your truck loses power after a regen cycle, something in your emission system or your engine could be causing the problem. In fact, it's probably the engine, but let's find out. The regen should burn off soot from the DPF, but if something goes wrong, it can lead to power loss. And here's what to check. One is a clogged or face plugged or soot packed DPF or DOC. That is basically like a potato in your tailpipe, and your engine's not going to be able to breathe, and it will run very poorly, and it will seem like you have lost power. If your truck has over 200,000 miles or hasn't been cleaned in a while, you likely have a DPF and DOC that need to be cleaned by a professional like yourselves. Another thing is exhaust leaks. That's a big deal. Exhaust leaks can mess up regen temperatures in a big way. And if your regen temperatures are thrown off, you're not going to get that soot burn you need. So inspect for leaks or cracks of the downpipe near the turbo. Look for any leaks on the gaskets and clamps for the DPF and DOC. You can simply look to see if you hear any air escaping around these clamps, or if you see any soot. Looks like it's sneaking out there. If you have a Detroit Freightliner with a DD13 or DD15 and a one box, one thing you might notice is you see some soot coming out through the vents in the one box. That would indicate that you have bad clamps or gaskets, and that's why you're having problems with regen. Turbo problems. Turbo problems can be a big deal. A bad turbo that's creating low boost pressures, that will make your combustion less efficient and will cause more soot buildup in your downstream system. So monitor your boost pressure, look for oil leaks or unusual sounds, and to find out whether the turbo is actually failing. Another thing is faulty sensors or ECM issues. Broken sensors can mislead the ECM, messing with the fuel injection and disrupting the regen. Use diagnostics tools to check sensor readings and replace any faulty sensors. EGR system issues. A bad EGR valve causes incomplete combustion, increasing soot production. So inspect the EGR for issues and replace the valve if it is stuck or clogged, or get it cleaned. We can clean the EGR valves as well. Crankcase breather problems. We had a truck in here just a week or two ago that had a lot of soot buildup issues, and they had a bad crankcase breather filter. They replaced the filter and everything was fine. Because a clogged breather causes oil to mist into the intake, which leads to basically burning oil in the combustion, which produces soot and faster DPF clogging. Another thing is low engine temps. Low engine temps during regen lead to incomplete combustion and cause more soot. Make sure the thermostat and cooling system are working correctly. Check that the fan clutch isn't stuck on. If your fan continues to run and run and run, it doesn't cycle on and off with the temperature of the engine. What that will do is will literally keep the engine too cool to properly regenerate, and there's your problem. So we recommend that you start with a DPF cleaning if it's been a while. Check for leaks. Always check for exhaust leaks, and ensure your turbo, your sensors, and EGR system are in good shape. If you need some help with this and want to reach out to us anytime, give us a call or text at 404 999 1361. Give us a call or text at 404 999 1361. All right. Question number 5. How often should I be checking or replacing my NOx sensors? So NOx sensors help your truck's SCR, or selective catalytic reduction system, reduce NOx emissions and decide how much DEF is needed. So the NOx sensors pick up on the NOx, the nitrogen oxides, and will say, "Oh, I'm smelling a lot of NOx. Give me more DEF. I've got the NOx beat back down. Give me less DEF." And if the sensors are not working right, they're either going to call for too much DEF or not enough DEF, and you're not going to get the right amount of NOx reduction, and it will generate codes. So if your sensors do fail, um, the it'll definitely cause some issues, um, and it can cause more DEF issues, poor engine performance, and issues with your SCR system. So here's what you need to know: um, how often should NOx sensors be changed? Um, NOx sensors really just should be inspected every 100,000 miles or so during routine maintenance. While they can last, it's not unheard of a NOx sensor to go 300,000, 500,000 miles or more. But the way you drive, temperature, exposure, fuel quality can make them fail sooner than that. If you see SCR codes or your DEF usage goes up noticeably, it might be time to check your sensors. And DPF guys can help you out with that because we can lend you a sensor and we can pull out the old one and try the new one and see how that goes. And if it fixes the problem, we sell you the new sensor. If it doesn't, we put the old sensor back in and we continue to diagnose the issue. Cheers. All right. So frequent SCR efficiency codes. If you're getting SCR codes, but the DEF system seems fine, your sensors could be the problem. In other words, if everything's clean and tidy and there's no soot in your exhaust, it could be the sensor or a harness. Excessive DEF consumption. Bad sensors can cause too much DEF to be injected, leading to higher consumption of DEF. Poor engine performance. Issues like regeneration failure, slow acceleration, or low power often come from many malfunctioning sensors. Can you believe that? How about a check engine light? Codes like P2200 or P2201 mean there's a problem with your NOx sensors. OEM versus aftermarket sensors. OEM sensors, these are high quality and recommended if your truck is under warranty, but they often have a core charge. So make sure you save and return your old sensor. My opinion on aftermarket sensors: certified aftermarket sensors from DPF guys, from us, are affordable and meet or exceed the OEM standards. So whether you use OEM or aftermarket, make sure you use high quality sensors from either source. Another thing to keep in mind is the handling of the NOx sensors. NOx sensors themselves are quite delicate. They have like elements inside of them, heating elements and what have you. Um, and if they are dropped or handled roughly before they're put in, that can definitely shorten their lifespan. So handle a NOx sensor like you would handle a light bulb, and it will last much longer for you. Um, so rule of thumb is, pay attention to your codes. If you do have a NOx sensor code, check your wiring, and come to someone like us that will let you try a NOx sensor to see if that solves the issue, and then be able to diagnose things further. If you want help with your NOx sensors, give us a call or a text at 404-999-1361. There you have it. Find us anytime, day or night, 404-999-1361. All right, what do we have here? On to number 6. It's kind of a good one here. Can running a truck on low DEF levels cause damage to the SCR? And the answer is running a truck with low DEF will not directly damage the SCR. That's good news. But it can cause several problems with engine performance and emissions. Here's what you need to know. If your DEF is low, guess what? Your truck may derate and put you into limp mode. So when DEF gets low, the truck's ECM or ACM triggers limp mode, which lowers engine power to stop too many harmful emissions, and really just be a pain in your ass and force you to actually address this issue once and for all. And so what you want to do is always top off your DEF before it gets too low. Check DEF levels often to prevent limp mode. Also, if your DEF starts to go more quickly than it was doing before, that can indicate that you have something else going on that needs to be addressed. So DEF can be a great measuring stick for the performance of your truck. And so refill your DEF tank before it gets empty. It's especially important on long trips or in cold weather. Regularly check your DEF to avoid running out unexpectedly. Sensor errors and misleading readings. The DEF sensor can sometimes give false readings showing that the tank is full when it's empty or vice versa. And I've actually seen this quite a bit. One of them is um, you'll have somebody that has a full tank of DEF, but the DEF level sensor is faulty, and it'll say that you don't have any DEF and cause the truck to want to go into limp mode, or the other way around, which is it'll say that it's full of DEF, but you're having all sorts of SCR codes because it's not catalyzing the NOx because there's no DEF being sprayed. So a couple of those things can be easily, again, if it says that your tank is empty, just take a peek inside and see if it's full. That tells you that your sensor is bad. If it says that it's full when it's empty, um, that can also mean the same thing, which is it's a bad sensor. Um, and so just regularly check your DEF levels and just replace a DEF level sensor if you're getting the message that that it's empty when it's actually full. Um, but love to answer your question, low DEF won't damage the SCR, but it can cause your truck to derate, and which is a pain in the butt and can be expensive if you need to be put on the back of a tow truck, or can be dangerous if you do derate in the middle of the highway. So if your truck is stuck in limp mode and having DEF issues, call or text DPF guys at 404-999-1361. We'll help you get your truck back on track. Call or text us anytime, 404-999-1361. All right, let's see if we got any other questions that came in. We do not. I am standing by if there are any. All right, number 7 is a good question. Oops. Sorry about that. I pressed the wrong button. What are the dangers of running a truck with a deleted emission system? Now, I know this is a hot button topic. Some people love deleted trucks. That's all they can talk about online, is bragging about how their truck is deleted and on and on and on. Um, and the people that have trouble with deletes are generally kind of quiet about it. I see them because they come to me to have me fix their truck after it's been deleted. But so let's talk about this. Deleting your truck's emission system, meaning basically, coring out or sawing off your DPF, your SCR, your EGR cooler, your DOC, etc. It may seem on the surface, based upon what you read on Facebook, it seems like every time somebody goes, "Hey, my truck is having this issue," whatever it might be, they'll say, "Delete your DPF; it'll fix everything," and then just disappear into the into the under a rock. Um, so it may seem like a way to improve performance and save maintenance costs. However, it can cause serious problems. Here's why. Um, it can actually, a deleted DPF can cause extremely increased engine strain and component wear. Without emissions, the engine runs much hotter than designed, which can damage parts like the cylinders, the turbo, and the valves. Um, the and this can lead to turbo failure, engine misfires, and damage to other important engine parts, causing expensive and just expensive repairs right off the bat. It's very common for a deleted truck to burn up its turbo. Without the EGR system, exhaust temperatures rise, stressing the turbo. Also, with the reduction in back pressure, the turbo can very easily overspin, causing the turbo to basically come apart and be destroyed. Um, and uh, Another weird thing is not every truck, but some of them actually rely on data from the emission system to determine how to shift the transmission. And I saw this recently on a Freightliner M2. He got the truck deleted, and then the transmission started to work like crap. Um, Nothing mechanically wrong with the transmission. It was the delete that threw off the shifting. And I know this sounds like I'm making it up, but I am not. Um, and that can also mess up timing of the fuel dosing, um, and can just basically cause more problems than it ever would solve. Well, and then look at number 4, which is just legal and regulatory consequences. Deleting an emission system is illegal under the Clean Air Act, and the fine for you as a driver is $5,000 per violation, um, and and it's it's serious. Um, and I just saw on the 21st, I believe, um, uh, a shop in Pennsylvania was just busted by the EPA for doing deletes on the trucks. And it starts off not too bad initially. It's a civil penalty, but what happens is they quickly turn it into a criminal penalty because the shop or the driver will try to hide the fact that they have a delete, and then that becomes a criminal thing. And the guy that has this delete shop is facing 9 years in prison for deleting trucks. So my point is, just tread lightly. Um, you can have decreased resale value, and mainly because nobody wants to buy a deleted truck and have to inherit your problems and your potential fines. Um, and some dealers will not even take your truck in trade if it's been deleted. At least they shouldn't. Or if they take it in trade, they just send it right to the auction and away it goes. Um, a big one is that I've seen more and more recently that updates are required on the ECM, the ACM, the MCM, and the transmission control module, all the modules. And when you have a deleted truck, they cannot do those updates. Or if they do them, the delete parameters, the tune that you put in your truck gets overwritten. And now you have a truck that is maybe physically deleted, but the software is back to the standard and now it won't run. And deleting the emission system can brick your ECM and it will prevent it from receiving updates. Um, Not be able to update your system. I mean, trucks are more and more dependent on software systems every single year. So if you do delete your truck and you can't do updates, this can lead to substantially outdated performance, more breakdowns, higher maintenance cost over time. So while deleting the emission system may seem like an easy fix, and many people online will just say, delete it, delete it, delete it to solve every single problem you can imagine, it's simply better to maintain your system properly and not delete it. If anybody wants to talk about this more, give us a call or a text at 404 999 1361. Give us a call or text at 404 999 1361. Be happy to talk to you about your truck's emission system. But I would strongly avoid deleting your truck because it is not some sort of magic solution for everything, regardless of what strangers on the internet might tell you. All right, question number 8. This is a good one, and I always tell people to look for this. How do exhaust leaks affect the performance of my emission system, and how do I find those exhaust leaks? So, exhaust leaks, even the teensy tiny ones, can cause big problems for your truck's emission system. They can mess up regeneration cycles, sensor readings, engine efficiency, and a bunch of other stuff. So, what do you need to know? Um, so, the leaks allow exhaust gases to escape before they reach the DPF, the SCR, the DOC, messing with pressure and temperature readings. This leads to incomplete regen cycles, usually, poor NOx reduction, and can trigger SCR related codes as well. Low exhaust temperatures caused by the leaks prevent proper regen, which leads to more frequent and maybe incomplete regen cycles and faster DPF clogging. What are the symptoms? Check engine lights or codes per usual. If you see SCR efficiency or DPF related codes, an exhaust leak could be the cause. Or you might be getting frequent or failed regens. If your truck keeps going into regen cycles or they fail to finish, simple exhaust leaks might be the reason. This is especially important on the Freightliners with the Detroit engines, the DD15s, DD13s, and they had the one box. Um, One of the reasons that we actually always pull the entire one box when we do a cleaning versus just popping the filters out and popping them back in is if we pull the whole one box off, it guarantees us that we can get everything put together and not have any leaks because we physically can get into that thing much more completely. We can verify that everything's sealed properly. When you're putting the filters in while the one box is still on the truck, it's much more difficult to put it back together without making a mistake or having something crooked and causing an exhaust leak, which will definitely cause problems down the line. Where to look for exhaust leaks? Turbo outlet and downpipe. That's the downpipe from the turbo. That has the biggest impact on regeneration. If there are any exhaust leaks there, check the flex pipe coming off the turbo. The big clamps and gaskets. Damaged or loose clamps and gaskets on the DPF and DOC can leak exhaust gases before they actually reach the parts that they need to get to. SCR pipes. Leaks in the SCR exhaust pipes can reduce the effect of DEF system and reduce NOx reduction, causing codes. And just how do you find them? You just look. Look for cracks or soot marks where they shouldn't be. If you want, use a little soapy water and look for bubbles. Another thing you can do, we do this, is use a temperature gun. If you have an infrared temperature gun, and look at the exhaust temps before and after suspected leak points. A large temperature drop always indicates a leak. And you can also listen. Do you hear the exhaust hissing out of this tiny crack somewhere? If you do find a leak, tighten loose clamps, replace cracked bellows pipes down from the turbo, and check your sensors that they're not loose. And if you have failed regens, consider giving us a call. If you have questions about exhaust leaks or something's been vexing you, give us a call or a text anytime, 404-999-1361. Give us a call or a text anytime, 404-999-1361. We are here to help. Even now, give us a call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You will talk to Lynn Diesel, our AI receptionist, if you call now, but she is standing by. Number 9. Okay, getting to the bottom of the list here. What's the difference between passive and active regeneration? And understanding the difference between passive and active regeneration is important for keeping your truck's diesel particulate filter clean and your truck running well. The passive and active are both designed to do the same thing, which is to clean the soot buildup off of the DPF, but they work in different ways. A passive regen, also known as a rolling regen, happens automatically while you're driving. It happens when your truck is running at highway speeds for a while, making the exhaust temperature rise enough to burn the soot off the DPF. When it happens, this usually happens during long drives or when carrying a heavy load. The exhaust temp will reach about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot enough to burn off the soot when combined with the DOC, which produces the added heat. So during a passive or rolling regen, the truck will use a pressure differential or delta P sensor to measure the exhaust pressure between the inlet and the outlet of the DPF. And if that difference is too great, that means that it's plugged up with soot, and it will trigger a rolling or a passive regen to produce the heat necessary to burn that soot off. But if you don't get up to highway speeds, if you do a lot of idling or stop and go driving, it may not reach the right temperature to do a passive regen. You will have to do an active regen. So an active regen happens when the truck notices the DPF is getting full of soot, and a passive regen is unable to take care of it for whatever reason. And that's when you actually would put the truck into regen by pressing a button or going into forced regen with a laptop. And that will then raise the temperature of the exhaust after the DOC to 1,000 degrees to like maybe 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit, about 538 degrees plus or minus Celsius. And that will burn off the soot, will turn off, will completely eliminate the soot. And what's left behind is primarily ash, just a little bit of ash. And active regen will normally start when the DPF is 45 to 60% full. And an active regen is important because if it's needed when a passive regen does not work, like in city driving. But if your truck calls for an active regen, it's telling you that you need to get your DPF cleaned. So, the truck might call for an active regen because it's saying, hey, my DPF is 60% full. You'll run the regen and your soot level might even go down to 0, which is a bit misleading. But it will, but it's designed to just get you going long enough to make your way to a shop to get your DPF cleaned. So if you do an active regen, do it once or twice, but don't make it a habit because the truck will eventually go into limp mode. Now you're stuck on the back of a tow truck, and that's just no fun. Um, so it's just important regular maintenance and addressing issues as they come up. Get your DPF cleaned every 200,000, 250,000 miles. We'll stop this all from happening. If you need to get a hold of us, guess what? We're available anytime, day or night, 404 999 1361. 404 999 1361. If you give us a call now or after hours, you won't reach a human, but you will reach somebody who is almost human, and that's Lynn Diesel, the very smart and friendly AI. All right. Last but not least, number 10. Oh, why do I keep seeing low NOx efficiency code despite having a clean DPF and SCR? All right, this is a good one, and this is something that you're going to see a lot on the 2015 Freightliners. If you're getting low NOx efficiency codes, even though your DPF and SCR are in decent shape, at least you hope they are, there could be other problems in your emission system, such as faulty NOx sensors. And that's where you want to come to us and have us diagnose that. And you want to use a diagnostic tool to check the sensors, or simply pop new ones in and see if that solves the problem. If it does, buy the new ones, especially when you work with us. If it doesn't, we take them back out, put them back on the shelf for future use for testing. And you can go about your business and we can keep diagnosing things. You could have DEF quality, bad, old, contaminated DEF. It can really mess up an SCR system and cause low NOx efficiency. DEF needs to be exactly 32.5% urea and 67.5% deionized distilled water. And if it's not that, or if it's contaminated, it's going to cause issues. You could have malfunctioning EGR cooler. A bad EGR valve can send too much exhaust gas back into the engine, making NOx emissions go up. Look for carbon buildup on the EGR valve or the delta P sensor in the EGR. You could have injector or fuel system issues. Leaking fuel injectors is very common in some of the Cummins 6.7 engines. A bad fuel spray can cause poor combustion and high NOx emissions. Exhaust leaks before the SCR. Leaks in the exhaust system can confuse the NOx sensors, making them read incorrectly. Inspect the exhaust system for leaks. We talked about in a question or two before this one. Check for around the turbo, around the DPF. Use soapy water if you'd like, or just listen, or use a thermal thermometer. Use an infrared thermometer to actually look to see if you can see a hot spot for the exhaust leak. That can really help you find it. Software calibration issues. I have seen this so much in the last month or two where trucks simply needed to have an update of their ECM, or it needs to be recalibrated. So especially if you've done recent work on the ECM or replaced your ECM, you need to get that updated and calibrated. So low NOx efficiency codes can be caused by sensor issues, DEF problem, EGR malfunctions, injector problems, exhaust leaks, or software issues. And diagnosing and fixing the issues are something we can help you with. If you have any questions or codes with your SCR, text or call us at 404 999 1361. 404 999 1361. And as you can see, turning behind me is one of the best ways to keep your truck running well and smoothly. If you simply text the word additive to 404 999 1361, text the word additive to 404 999 1361, and I guarantee I will give you 10% off on your first order of a case of 4 gallons of the Clean Air Fleet additive. Will help your truck run real well and eliminate some of these issues and definitely give you more time between DPF cleanings, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to quick check to see if anything snuck in here. Did not, which is cool with me. So that's it. I want to make it quick. My brother's in town, so I want to make sure I can go spend some time with him. So that's it. Your questions, my answers. Thanks so much for watching. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments, or if you're watching this after the live is over, days or weeks or months or years in the future, leave me a comment, and with your question, I can definitely answer it. If you want to contact us directly, call or text us at 404 999 1361. Call or text us at 404 999 1361, and I can definitely help you out. And just look at as it crawls across the bottom of the screen. Text the word additive, ADDITIVE, to 404-999-1361, and I can get you more information and place an order for you for the Clean Air Fleet additive. It's a huge help to any diesel engine out there, big or small. And if you have any questions about the additive, make sure you give us a shout. I'll definitely help you out. So don't forget to subscribe to the DPF Guys YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and follow us on TikTok. Thanks again for watching, and see you next week.
Haze, just clear skies ahead with DPF Guys. Your exhaust game's on tread. We got the tools, the skills, the might to get your truck rolling clean into the night. Throttle up, feel that clean airflow. Our service so slick, your ride seals the show. DPF Guys, we got the fit so fine. Hit the road with confidence. Now the world's your shrine, bringing that